Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show. Hi there, folks. Welcome to my latest series of TV episode reviews, where I'm now going to be delving into the new CBS Access show, Picard. And before we start, remember you can follow me on the Twitters, where my handle is @GrumpyOpinions. Really easy to remember because it's the same as this YouTube channel. Now, Picard, as you might have guessed, is about Jean Luc Picard, ex-captain of the USS Enterprise 1701, now long retired and living up his personal perpetual sunny French vineyard. But before I start telling you about old man Jean Luc, there's a small matter of a brainy lassie who's just gotten into uni at the Daystrom Institute studying kinds of AI and robot stuff, and she's celebrating with her sexy alien boyfriend man, when suddenly space ninjas appear and they do a bad kill on him, and they grab her and say something about her not being activated, and then they try and knock her out with a paper bag over her head, and she goes absolutely radio rental and kicks 7 shades of booty out of all of them until they all get properly dead. Then she takes off the bag and is kind of shocked and surprised, and then she has a vision of Captain Picard. Meanwhile, Picard, he's having dreams about him and Data sitting playing poker in 10 forward and chatting on the spaceship, and it's all a bit strange and a wee bit off.
I don't want the game to end.
Like something seems not quite right about it. That's how you know it's a dream. And then he sees Mars, and Mars starts getting boomed because it turns out this is a nightmare, and really he's still actually living in Chateau Picard in France, like I said, and he's got his 2 Romulan mates and his cute wee staffy dog called Number 1. And it seems today's an important day because he's going to do a big TV interview with the news, something about the anniversary of Romulus having a really bad time and when everything went proper wrong. And it turns out that Picard urged the Federation to give aid to the planet after the sun went supernova. Only it didn't really work out well because at exactly the same time they were out doing that, all of these evil AI robots came and they destroyed Mars, and the Federation decided not only to ban the creation of all kind of synthetic androids and things, but also to pull out of the big aid mission to Romulus.
The galaxy was mourning, burying its dead, and Starfleet slunk from its duties.
And that made Picard so cross that he ended up quitting the Starfleet. And it's also a total no-go topic arranged in advance for the interview, so understandably, when it gets brought up, he's a little pissed off, and it's like, mic dropped, out of there woman. So later on that evening, Lukey Johnny's getting a big wine on in a massive glass, and then the girl from the beginning of the show wanders up to him and she's like, hi, and he's like, you okay there? And she tells him kind of what happened and they have a wee bit of a chat, and she keeps saying that she knows him, but he doesn't really know how or why, or about how she managed to do the Bruce Lee on all the space ninjas, and he's kind of typically Picard and kind about it all and sends her to her bed, and in the morning, she's wandered off and he has another Data dream, this time about a painting. So he goes to look at some old stuff in a super secure private storage vault, and he finds another Data painting, only this time it's the same girl, but you can see her face, and dun dun dun, it's the same girl. Luckily though, that Manchurian Candidate type girl calls her mum up and gets reactivated and heads after Picard again, because clearly her mum's in on the secret or the joke or something, because it's all a bit suspect. And then they meet up and he says, by the way, you're probably a robot. And she's like, but I don't want to be a robot. And he's like, but it's okay, I like robots because I had a friend one. And then suddenly space ninjas appear and she has to do more and many death kills on them until the last one. And oh, by the way, they're all Romulans. He spits some acid at her somehow, and that makes him die and her face go all nasty, and then his gun goes extremely boomy death. And Picard wakes up and she's gone, and the CCTV recordings apparently never saw her or the space ninjas because they were using cloaking devices. So he heads off to the Daystrom Institute in Japan, and then he speaks to Chips and Beans Veronica Mars, and she's all like, yeah, you can't make biological robots, it can't be done, and it's all been banned anyway, so we only do theoretical stuff here. I mean, there was this one guy, Maddox, but oh, funnily enough, he's disappeared, and if anyone could have done it, it would have been him. And oh look, that necklace, that happens to be his secret symbol of magical, interlinked, clever twin making of robots. So that means that there's actually 2 of her. Ooh. And then cut to a space place where some smouldering hot hipster bad guy goes in, and he has a bit of an awkward chat with, who is it? The other robot lassie, who plainly fancies him every way up and down the street and can't stop playing with her necklace. So what did I think? Well, I have to be kind of honest. This is actually a pretty decent start to the show. It's not perfect, but the horrors of Star Trek Discovery just aren't there for the most part. Straight off the bat, Patrick Stewart does absolutely rock solid stuff as Picard. I mean, this isn't the sprightly Picard of the Next Generation, or even the kind of elder statesman of the latter movies.
Battle stations.
He's a much older man, And the shows go to some pains to recognise that he's not that spry or fitter anymore, and that he's kind of like an ageing retired war veteran. And given that the story's set like 30 years or so after the end of the last movie, I mean, I reckon that's about it. It also makes sense that things have changed. I mean, our world's changed loads, even in my lifetime, and while there's like a thinness to the Federation's suddenly more awkward towards other races outlook, I mean, it's a little bit weird and insular, especially considering the Federation is made up of other races. But it could be that after the major attack, there's been other ramifications that we don't know about. So that really didn't bother me that much. I mean, I know some people really don't like this stuff, but I feel like it's not a portrayal of classic Trek. I mean, I've never liked the idea that this Federation is some kind of monolithic, unchanging thing that never ever changes or goes bad, because it has. And Star Trek's done it before, and I'm sure there's loads of ground you could cover under that banner. I mean, it's happened quite a lot over the years in little bits and drips and drabs. And although it's never been like the wider case of it, it certainly was a bit more the case in the older days. And I mean, put it this way, my favourite Star Trek film is The Undiscovered Country, #6, and that's the one about a conspiracy between Starfleet top brass and the Romulans. And it was also about a humanitarian effort about a former enemy who suffered a massive natural disaster on their homeworld, and things didn't go well. Also, it's bizarre, I've seen a few people complaining about the relationship between Picard and Data on this, and saying that they weren't that close on the show. But to be honest, I mean, that may be accurate in the first few seasons, but latterly they really found a rapport. And in the films, I mean, each film basically managed to be kind of data-centric, and Picard was always a #1 character, so they played up their friendship quite a lot. And I don't have an issue with the idea that old man Picard looks back fondly on Data, especially since he was the guy who literally saved Picard's life and sacrificed himself in the last movie.
Goodbye.
And there's also loads of nods back to the show, little things. My own favourite was the little Four Lights one, because we all know that.
There are 4 lights!
And frankly, this show has kind of a lot of potential. And at this early stage, it's hard to call it because the drive of it's unclear, and it's still a mystery, partly because of the writing. Now, the fact is, there's a lot of things I actually had an issue with in Picard. And while I did say I enjoyed the episode and the show looks kind of interesting, there is a bit of a scrappiness to it, a rushed, messy feeling to some of the scenes, some of the editing, some of the writing.
No, really.
Now, apparently, it was originally going to be longer than 10 episodes, but Amazon was only willing to make 10, so they either needed to edit down the scripts, or maybe they needed to cut together a different episode and footage to fit into 10 episodes. And I think that's kind of the result of some of the storylines getting pared down, that you can feel that it's a bit jumpy. For example, Picard meets Desh and then immediately jumps to the conclusion that she's actually an android and that she's Data's daughter because of the painting, against any other possibility. And not only that, he directly goes up and just starts telling her straight away. She's like, you're a robot, like I said. Even though she's really confused about it, rather than even consider any other possibilities out there. I mean, seemingly on kind of contrived evidence of dreams and such. And I know that Picard has had visions before, particularly since he was part of the Borg, back in the film First Contact. But he does all of this before going to the Daystrom Institute and speaking to the robot scientist lady, who actually says, yeah, there could be a flesh and blood robot. So I do have to wonder if originally there was a lot more investigating that went on in this before he actually meets up with her and tells her that, but she gets exploded. And at some point, maybe, I wonder if the Daystrom Institute sequences was actually meant to happen before he met up with her and she dies. I mean, I can't say that for sure, that's just a guess, and obviously it isn't shot that way because he's wearing different clothes and the dialogue wouldn't work. But one of the major issues for me was that things felt kind of contrived rather than logical, and that's a similar problem that Discovery's had before, shortcutting story instead of letting it play out. Now, sure, this is only episode 1 and you need to get things going, but because it felt so rushed, especially the last few scenes of Picard and Veronica robots, I mean, it really didn't help that funky necklace that's supposed to represent the scientific thing is literally 2 circles. I mean, honestly, look on Etsy, you'll find 1,000 necklaces that look like that and they don't mean anything. But it felt really, really rushed, that bit, really ham-fisted, and really kind of like they were just saying the same things over and over again to hammer the point home for the thick people in the audience. And then there was that whole bit at the end with the Borg cube that just felt really, really daft. I mean, it's a Borg cube. I presume they know they're building a Borg cube because it's kind of hard to build something that's shaped like a cube and not notice. And there's only one kind of people who ever used cubes, and everybody knew them, even the Romulans. But beyond that, I mean, as I said, most of this episode was fine. Acting-wise, it was fine. It's decent. There was no bad performances. The writing, some of it was a bit, cheesy. Some of the politics are a little bit on the nose, but most of the storyline's plausible. If, and it's a big if, they give us some more backstory and explanation about things like the Federation and what's happened and why, maybe have him speak to somebody in it who actually has a point of view on that. You know, and if they don't, that would be a bit weak, and it might be that kind of show. I mean, Discovery went a little bit that way, but I'm not going to prejudge. And overall, I'm interested to keep watching. So, till next time, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions.